And good morning, everyone. Welcome back. My name is Don K. Preston. I am the president of Preterist Research Institute of Ardmore, Oklahoma. And this is what I call my morning musings. We are kind of picking up on our study of the already but the not yet of eschatology. Whereas in the New Testament, the writer spoke of certain elements that relate to the end times, that relate to salvation, and they speak of them as having already occurred or present realities, and then they turn around and say, those things are coming. Now, many people attempt, falsely, to dichotomize the nature and to say, well, yeah, they had the spiritual reality, but they were waiting on the physical reality. No, that's a false dichotomy. You do not find that dichotomy anywhere in the New Testament. That's an invented theology. Well, we've been examining the book of Revelation in regard to the vindication of the martyrs. This has a direct impact on our understanding of the millennium. We'll get to that later. But we've already examined Revelation chapter 6 and the prayer of the martyrs for vindication. They were given white robes. These are robes of royalty. And they're told to rest for only a little while until their vindication would come at the great and the awesome day of the Lord's wrath. Revelation 6:12 and following. And I've shared with you how that great day is absolutely unequivocally posited by Jesus himself, by Paul, by Malachi, by Isaiah, all verses quoted there in Revelation 6 at AD 70. Notice another, already but not yet, of the same identical motif of persecution, vindication, imminent vindication, final vindication. All right. Revelation chapter 12, you have the woman with a crown with 12 stars. You know, it's the sun, the moon, and the stars. She gives birth to a man-child. And the serpent seeks to destroy the man-child. Here is the initial persecution, if you please. This is Jesus as the head of this body of the saints. But this man-child is taken up into heaven. There is a war in heaven. Satan, who is the persecutor, is cast out to the earth. And notice that it says, he has great wrath because he knows that he has only a little while. What is he doing? He is pursuing the seed of the man-child to destroy that seed. But that seed is preserved. Place in the wilderness is provided. But Satan is destroyed at the end of that little while. You have an already, but you have a not yet of persecution. You have the initial victory over Satan, Satan cast out of heaven, the man-child delivered. You have the final victory. Now, when we put that into the context of the overcoming of Satan, the overcoming of the persecution, we see that Jesus said, John chapter 12, speaking of his death on the cross, now is the judgment of this world. Now shall the God of this world be cast out. In Colossians chapter 2, 13 or 14 and following, Paul said that in and through the cross, Christ had triumphed over the principalities and powers and made a public show, a public spectacle of them. Christ had the initial victory over Satan. But there was a time period coming of persecution of the seed of Christ. See, Christ is the seed of Abraham. His followers were his seed. That's Galatians 3, 26 to 29, by the way. So here we have the already but the not yet. Remember what Jesus said about his followers and persecution and their vindication in Matthew chapter 23. Now, if Jesus is represented as the head of this new covenant seed, and his followers are those, his seed, that would be persecuted by Satan, then Matthew 23 becomes definitive. Because Jesus said the Old Covenant prophets had been killed by Israel. They were going to kill him. They were going to kill his apostles and prophets that he sent to them, fill up the measure of their sin, and Israel would be judged. Israel's the persecutor. Israel's the adversary. Israel was Satan. Would be destroyed in that generation. And thus, Paul could write in Romans 16:20, writing to the saints at Rome who are being persecuted, Romans 5:1 and following, Romans 12. Paul could write to them and say, and now the God of peace will crush Satan under your feet shortly. Uses the Greek word or term entaki, or entakai if you please, which is never used of rapidity of action as opposed to imminence or nearness of action. Paul was saying the crushing, this is the final defeat of Satan, was about to take place. Here's the already but the not yet of the vindication of the martyrs as set forth in Revelation chapter 12. It corresponds beautifully with Matthew 23, corresponds beautifully with Revelation chapter 6, all of which point us inexorably to AD 70. Hey, we've got more. You don't want to miss this. Be sure to get a copy of my book, Who is This Babylon? I cover this and a ton more of material about it's really about the already but the not yet. It's the vindication of the martyrs as set forth in Revelation. This stuff will blow your mind. Go to my websites, eschatology.org, bibleprophecy.com, donkpreston.com. Order the book, mention that you saw the offer on YouTube or Facebook, and you will not be charged shipping. Thanks so much for joining me for this morning's Morning Musings. You have a great day. We'll see you on the flip side.